On today's episode of Identity, we hang out with young leader Nkululeko Majozi. We experience the Jewish Passover with our Encounters presenter in Cape Town. What's APPenning features the review of an app to help you get financially fit. We also review the movie Life of a King. And we play out with a beautiful track from SK.
I am an individual with an imagination. My inner faith illuminates innovations. In a space with infinite inspiration, I was born free from all incarceration. Incredible, living infallibly, intelligent, outshine with my inner being. This is me, impeccable as ever been. I am you, you are me. This is my identity.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Identity, the multi-faith youth show that puts a spring in your spiritual step. I'm your host, Mpumi Mbethe. Lo muhla siqala inyanga yebantfu labasha. Sitawube sibungatwa lilanga lebantfu labasha kungekudzala. Silithimba le-Identity sithandza kukhuthaza bantfu ukuthi sibuke emva kulesehlakalo seminyaka wa 1976 nalabo labalwela likusasa lelingcono. The month of June is also Men's Health Awareness Month. Gentlemen, your health is your wealth. So be sure to schedule routine doctor's visits and make efforts to maintain a healthy lifestyle. In an effort to boost your spiritual health, we have an inspiration-packed episode for you. Let's meet my guest for today. Nkululeko Majozi describes himself as a lover of politics and very passionate about the African continent and its development. It is this love and passion that led this Rhodes University graduate to start the Young Leaders Initiative, a pan-African community of young African professionals, entrepreneurs, and social change agents under the age of 34. This initiative seeks to develop the future generation of African leaders who will drive and impact Africa's future social and economic development. The team and I thought it fitting to kick off Youth Month by chatting to this driven young man. Nkululeko, siyabonga ba.
Thank you very much, bro.
Angithathe ungimise la ukhulele khona ukuthi ukhule umfana lo njani.
Well, Nkululeko Sloras, Zulu section, more known as Zombi. So I grew up at my grandmother's house, and for the first 11 years of my life, and then after that I went to stay with my father, Kone Fosloras Futi, a section nabathi Masimini. Yeah, and that's where I was a very quiet child. So, and my dad was a very strict man, and he was a businessman. So I didn't have many friends around, only friends in high school. And yeah, so that's where I got my entrepreneurial grounding. You know, I'd always be working when other kids are going and playing with their friends after school and whatnot. I'd always be at home, working at the shop or at the butchery.
And religion, nansakhula nje nikhulutweni bantu linye esontweni or inkolo lethite leni kholelwa kuyo?
Yeah, benginogogo wami from my mother's side. She used to love church, and they dressed me up, formal clothes. It's opo, you know, sharp-toed shoe, and they dressed my sister up as a baby girl, and I'd have to go to church with her, holding her hand in hand.
But were there any lessons loatifunza during that time? Were there any values from engonzweni loa practice agonyala?
Yeah, very much. Because the thing about church and Christianity is that it's so similar to African values, where you're taught to respect everyone, respect your elders, treat everyone with the same dignity and respect that they deserve. You know, you're taught the virtue of hard work. So yeah, I still carry those that close to me. And yeah, they still guide me in my everyday interaction in the work that I do, and so on.
You hold a BA honors in politics and international studies. Politics.
I remember in high school I was always interested in history. Always asked the question, why is there so much injustice in the world? Why do people have to suffer so much? You know, and I wanted to make a difference. And so the decision that came was that I have to get involved in politics. You know, I have to be there and influence decisions, and see the change that I want, and contribute to the change that I want to see in this world.
Then you decided to start the Young Leaders Initiative. Yeah. Tell me about that.
The idea of the Young Leaders Initiative is to develop a new generation of young leaders who can take the continent forward. I mean, we've been fortunate that the recent leaders, African leaders, like Mandela, yes. They've taken the continent forward. So we need a new generation now that's going to build on those successes of those leaders, and basically move the continent forward in in a values-based kind of way.
Speaking of values-based, because that's one of your core focuses, what do you think? Why do you think values are so important in leadership?
I mean, values guide you as a person, as a leader. If you have a strong set of values, you are able to lead people. People identify with you, and I mean, it's easier to make decisions because you have a set value system.
Sisabongata minyaka lemashumi lamabili enkululeko kulomnyaka lona futhi siyakulanga lebantfu labasha very soon. Nawubuka bantfu labasha bangeminyaka wa 1976 nebantfu labasha ku2014, nguphi lobona ngathi singakufunza kulaba ba 1976?
Yabo into enkulu esingayifunda from youth yango 1976 is to be active. As I was saying earlier on, we need to contribute to the change that we want to see in this world. As youth we think that politics is not for us. We see everything that is happening around us, the things that are going wrong, but we tend to say, this is not for us, leave it to the politicians. But it's not like that. As we've seen with the Arab Spring uprisings in Egypt, they were youth-led. Youth were in the forefront of bringing change to that country. And I think now, like South Africa, we need to go back to that, to have a conscious youth, to have a very informative youth who are interested in what is happening in the lives in the world around them. So that we can be a voice, an active voice in society, and contribute to the conversation around where and how is South Africa going on moving forward.
We see South Africa, but ubuge the entire continent.
The entire continent as well. I speak of South Africa because this is a very important month for us as the youth. And so in celebrating this month, we have to ask ourselves as the youth, what are we doing in our own personal spaces, to remember the legacy of those that passed and also to carry it forward.
I would want to play this game with you right now. It's called the If You Were game. Okay. If you were a doctor, what kind of doctor would you be?
I'd be a heart surgeon.
If you were a pilot, which destination would you fly to first?
I'd fly to Zanzibar.
If you were a car, who would you want to drive you in your house? Family?
Family. Jeez.
Friends?
No one, but
no trust. If you're a hairstyle, what hairstyle would you be?
I'd be a razor cut.
If you were money, in whose pocket would you want to be in?
My mother's.
Safe.
My mother's pocket.
A shoelace? What shoe would you want to tie up?
An all-star.
And if you were one of your friends, which friend would you want to be?
I'd be Tabi so good.
Thank you so much, Nkululeko. It's been such a pleasure. The late African leader, former Kenyan President Jomo Kenyatta, once said, "Our children may learn about the heroes of the past. Our task is to make ourselves the architects of the future." We certainly hope that Nkululeko has inspired you to become architects of your community and the country's future. When we come back, we have a spiritual encounter with young Ryan Hindler and his family as they observe the Jewish holiday of Passover. We'll be right back.
This is my identity. This is my identity.
Usabukele i-Identity la Mzansi for sure, nami Mpumi Mbethe. It's now time for what has become a favorite for many of our viewers. This is the part of the show where you get to be the guest presenter and share your religious or community story with us and the I-Identity viewers. Just like Ryan Hendler, who sent us an email a few weeks ago. Asimuve kutsi utsini. Dear I-Identity, my name is Ryan Hendler, and I would like to invite you to experience Pesach, or the Passover, with me and my family in Cape Town. This is an important event on the Jewish calendar, and I look forward to sharing this experience with you. Love, Ryan. Because our team loves sharing such stories with you, our valued viewers, we gladly accepted Ryan's invitation and headed off to Sea Point in Cape Town. Here's his story.
This is my identity.
Shalom, Mpumi and I-Identity viewers. Thank you for accepting my invite to join us in Cape Town to celebrate Pesach, also known as Passover. In this story, I take you behind the scenes as my family and community prepares for this lovely festival. Join me now as we learn more. The first 2 nights of Passover are very important to our community. Generally, we go to synagogue to pray or share our festivities. Now let's go and meet the rabbi. Shalom, Rabbi. Thank you for your time today. Will you please describe the history of the Passover to me?
Pesach takes us back a little over 3,000 years to when the Israelite people were enslaved in Egypt under the harsh decrees of Pharaoh and his people. They were forced into back-breaking labor. They were forced to do tasks with really no purpose. And this was an ongoing process for decades. And eventually the story is that through great miracles under the leadership of Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, God inflicts the Egyptian people with these 10 miraculous plagues. Water turns to blood, there's frogs, eventually the death of the firstborn Egyptians. And with that, Pharaoh finally sends the Jews out of Egypt, a feat, by the way, which had never been achieved before.
And Rabbi, what is the main significance of the Passover?
Obviously, historically, this is really the beginning of our nation. This is when the Jewish people become a nation. We leave Egypt, arrive at Mount Sinai, where God reveals himself to the Jewish people and relates to us the laws of the Torah, beginning with the 10 Commandments. Therefore, it's something that we actually are instructed to recount not only once a year on the festival of Pesach, but on a daily basis. The Exodus is something that we remember. Explain the main observances of Passover. The basic core, what we call mitzvot, the divine instructions, we eat the matzah, which is an unleavened bread, which we told in our Torah is the bread that they ate as they left Egypt. And there's much symbolism to it. Although this is an ancient story, there is also the personal story. And that's the concept that each of us, in some way, are struggling with some type of restrictions in our own lives, which are symbolic of a restrictive nation. And it's a reminder that it's through humility that we can achieve a real sense of personal freedom and breaking down those inner restrictions that hold us back from achieving our own potential. The Seder, which is the meal that we have on the first 2 nights of Pesach, also includes wine, the symbolic of the joy and the celebration of the moment, the great freedom that we experienced. We also have bitter herbs that we eat on the evening. This is not only to recall the bitterness of the slavery in Egypt, but also to remember that there is a significant amount of bitterness in the world. And just to remain cognizant of that and to remain empathetic to those who today are still suffering in whatever way they may be suffering.
Lastly, Rabbi, what takes place at the synagogue?
So in preparation for Pesach, we are required to rid our homes of all bread and leavened product. And then the obligation is to make sure that is completely destroyed on the morning of Pesach, so that by the time we come to our Seder, the evening meal, we've rid ourselves of all the physical leavened bread, and we now open up to that experience of recalling the story correctly and some level of personal freedom.
Rabbi, thanks so much for your time and explaining the Passover to me and the viewers. With me now is my mom, who is going to tell us a little bit about what happens in our home before Pesach.
Ryan, as I tell you every year, a lot goes into preparing for the Pesach meal. After cleaning up around the house, I come into the kitchen and I clean out all the cupboards and drawers and make sure that there's no breadcrumbs or anything lying around. And I take out the Pesach plates and silverware that we're going to use for the next 8 days. We then go around and clean the house and make sure that everything's sparkly clean for the Pesach meal.
Mom, can you take me through the preparations for the first night of Pesach?
Ryan, Pesach is known as a very traditional holiday, so there's a lot of traditions that we need to follow. I start quite a few days in advance preparing with my cooking. On the day of Pesach, I start with boiling the eggs. So we've got a lot of people coming tonight for dinner, so I boil 1 egg for each person, which we're going to have with salt water. I make sure I've got my Seder plate ready with all the different things that we need for the Seder when we follow in the Haggadah. And then, of course, we have the traditional meal.
With me now is my granny, who is going to explain the importance of preserving the Jewish tradition like the Passover.
It's a tradition that we carry on from generation to generation, and it revolves around the Haggadah. The Haggadah is part of the family tradition. It teaches the children. It is the most interesting time for them to learn everything about their heritage.
The highlight of Passover is the Seder, observed on each of the first 2 nights of the holiday. The Seder is a 15-step family-oriented tradition and ritual-packed feast. There you have it, I-Dentity viewers. The next time you hear about the Jewish Passover, you will have a better understanding about why we celebrate this important time in the Jewish calendar. Thank you for joining me in Cape Town. It's back to Mpumi in the studio.
Sibonge kakhulu kuRyan nemndeni wakhe nemphakathi wabo ngekusifundisa kabanti ngenkolo yabo. Let's take one more break, after which we head straight into our media review segment. Today we check out an app to help you get financially efficient and a movie based on a true story called Life of a King. Stay with us.
This is my identity. This is my identity.
Welcome back to I-Dentity. We started the show on a high note with a young champion for pan-Africanism, Nkululeko Majozi. And our Encounters presenter, Ryan Hendler, gave us a glimpse into the Jewish observation known as Pesach or Passover. Now it's time to get your smart devices out and let's check out the latest media reviews in our What's Happening segment. Our recommended apps in this segment are not only about mind, body and spirit, it's also about how to keep a check on your stress levels. Have you ever found yourself with a depleted bank balance that you can't fully account for? Today's app will help you keep track of your monthly income and expenditure and help you become more money savvy. It's called Budgets.
The Budgets app is an app that will help you manage and keep a record of your income and expenses. It is easy to use and is suitable for all your personal, family, and even business finances. The app lays out different charts of your budget plan so you can determine which of your expenses take up more of your income, thus showing you categories that are underplanned and those that are overplanned. The app works in the following way. First, create budget entries for your income and expenses, including how long you want them in your budget plan. You can then indicate the budget limits for each entry that you make. The app adds up every transaction you have made and shows you the progress for each category as well as your overall progress. The app offers you detailed management of budgeted categories and detailed entries such as planned expenses versus actual ones, the limit per category, recurring transactions, and so forth. The futuristic design of the app makes you feel like you are adding up numbers and planning your future life, keeping budgeting fun and easy to work with. Some of the extra features of the app include the PIN code setup that is aimed at ensuring that your personal information is protected, thus making your budgeting experience with the app easier. Download the Budgets app today and manage your finances in a more proficient and stress-free way.
Certainly an app worth checking out. Up next is the review of an inspirational movie starring the Oscar-winning actor Cuba Gooding Jr. It's called Life of a King.
I'm scared, man. 2 decades in the joint. Nobody wants to hire an ex-con.
Just keep your eye on the end game. Everything will fall into place.
Life of a King is based on the true life story of Eugene Brown, an ex-convict with a mission to make his life and the lives of those around him better. Eugene Brown uses the game of chess as a tool to give something to the kids of Washington, D.C., something that he himself never had, and that is a chance at a better life and the opportunity to make better life decisions. During his incarceration for bank robbery, Brown discovers a multitude of life lessons through the game of chess. Once he is released, he struggles to find employment, and his former partner in crime offers him an opportunity to return to his former criminal ways. Brown refuses the offer and manages to get a job as a janitor at a local high school after lying in his resume. He is eventually tasked to mind the detention sessions at the school and uses this as an opportunity to introduce chess to the unruly teenagers that remind him of his former self.
Listen, no trash talking, no cursing. Just play your game.
No trash talking, no cursing. That is my game.
The movie has an inspiring message about changing one's life, acquiring a new skill, and making plans for a better and brighter future. So if you are looking for a good story that will inspire change and give you hope, then make sure you go to your nearest movie store and hire this life-changing film.
No, sir. It's about learning how to play the game.
Siphela njalo siqephu sanamhla selihlelo lwetenkolo nebantu labasha lelihamba embili. Ngibonge kakhulu kubambisana kwakho nami lomuhla. According to statistics, 1 in 4 South Africans will experience cancer in their lifetime. With today being International Cancer Survivors Day, may it be a day of gratitude and reflection for those who have survived. And let it be a day of strength, love, and inspiration for those recently diagnosed who will continue to beat the disease. Let us also use today as a reawakening to offer support to affected families. We'd love to know what you think of today's guest, story, and media reviews. Send an email to identitytvshow@gmail.com. We're also available on the social media front. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Simply search for Identity TV Show and get connected instantly. With that said, it's a wrap of today's episode. Join us again next week Sunday at 11 a.m. right here on SABC 1. We play out with a track from local R&B crooner SK with his song It Is What It Is. From me, Mpumi Mbethe, and the Identity team, goodbye.